Let's turn to the Republican presidential sweeps for a bit.
Just because that's a fun thing to talk about.
Well, it's a fun thing to talk about, but there's also been sort of like some big moves this week. I mean, it became clear that at the beginning of the week that the Koch brothers were supporting Scott Walker.
Right.
Then
I feel like he's always been their Manchurian candidate.
I agree totally.
We have no idea how much money was spent in the recall election because some of that didn't. I think there are even further reasons why a lot of that didn't have to be disclosed. I don't think we have a clue. I think they picked this guy out, who sort of it doesn't really offend anybody in the Republican coalition because his dad's an evangelical preacher, so he has even though he may not be, evangelical, quote unquote, doesn't talk about those things every day. He would be. That's a good signal to be acceptable to that wing of the party. I honestly, I think he may be our first actual Manchurian. Well, maybe not, but he is one for them. I'm sure they're supporting him, and yes, I'm sure they'd be happy with Jeb Bush or Marco Rubio or people like that who would do a lot of their bidding too. But I'm positive
but Scott
he's
Walker's
their guy.
totally in their pocket. I mean, if there's any doubt, and Digby wrote a piece in Salon saying that, suggesting she thinks that because of what he told Glenn Beck, and we played it on this program, that he was against even legal immigration, that he lost the Koch brothers. I don't think so whatsoever. I mean, folks, just to ask yourselves, who else would the Koch brothers want? This is a guy who destroyed the unions in Wisconsin, of all places. He is a guy who does not have the independence that a Jeb Bush would have from a Koch brothers, right? He's in there. The AFP has worked more closely. The Americans for Prosperity has worked more closely with Scott Walker and the Scott Walker campaign than I would say probably any other politician in the entire country.
Right.
Never mind those who are running for president. He is the perfect candidate for them.
Yeah, I mean, do we even see where I'm sure it seems most of the business Republicans are for immigration reform for the obvious reason, but have the Koch brothers made that a big issue? I think
it's been an issue for them, but I think they also know,
lack of environmental regs is the big one for what they produce.
But look,
and he's
how many
banning people from mentioning, go ahead.
How many people the Chamber of Commerce in 2014 support who are against that? Tom Tillis in North Carolina. I mean, They are very pro-immigration. That's one of their biggest.
Right, Chamber of Commerce, yes.
And
obviously, they've
gone
out
out
on that.
and supported anti-immigration. So I don't think. Listen, I think this is a strategic thing. The Koch brothers are saying to Walker, or Walker's saying to the Koch brothers, "I got to do this because in the past I've held your position, which is toxic in the primary. And you know what? I can see the light. This time next year, I'll have an epiphany, and I'll be riding in my car and drive by a gardener and say, "Oh my gosh, wait a second, maybe we should all be immigrant." I mean, there'll be something that he says that he realized.
I agree with you.
I mean, come on.
Again, we just heard what Obama's speech was on free trade and where he is now. The thing is that if you have a record that points in one direction, you suddenly make a very quick, statement in a different direction. It's probably safest to assume the person still holds the original position.
Right. I mean, look, if he's got the Koch brothers $900 million behind him, and undoubtedly he's going to have some other big money behind him. I mean, look, after Jeb Bush, who's the next establishment candidate? We were saying
him right now, absolutely.
We were saying when Bridgegate first dropped, we were saying that Scott Walker is laughing right now and with a huge smile on his face.
Not just laughing, he was sharing on Facebook, I'm sure.
And the only thing that has changed is Jeb Bush. And frankly, I think people know Jeb Bush. I just don't think he's not a gorilla in this race. He's
not at all. He's overrated. He's not doing even that well in New Hampshire, which should be his. I mean, Jesus, it's from a northeastern waspy family. They probably have they're probably related to half of New Hampshire. I mean, seriously, that should be exactly the kind of place he should do great, and he's not.
Yep.
I think, frankly, not only with Scott Walker, again, I've said this in the past, I'll say it again, I think Marco Rubio is a big threat to Bush, because the establishment can live with Rubio, too, if they have to. And so I'd say Scott Walker is first in line, but I'd say if it came down to Rubio or Bush, it'd be Rubio.
Interesting.
I just think Bush is maybe in sixth place, realistically, maybe fifth at best. Among the ones who are floating around there. I think he barely gets in ahead of Ted Cruz, quite frankly.
And and again, in terms of like Ted Cruz and in the rest of the sort of the nut jobs, my biggest sort of disappointment is that we're not seeing Ted Cruz make a big deal of TPP. I mean,
I agree. And Rand Paul, who's supposed to be Mr. Isolationist and not believe in these kinds of foreign treaties, where the hell is he on this?
Well, I think they just, the money race is just too tight at this point, I think.
No, I know. I mean, I know where the hell he is, and he doesn't really believe in it. He doesn't believe in anything. He believes in being president. There's plenty of other things that a libertarian theoretically would believe. But as I pointed out again and again, he's not a libertarian, but he uses that. He's a states' rightser. He's a neo-Confederate isolationist. He doesn't mind if the state deprives you of all of your rights. He just doesn't want the federal government to do it.
Right.
If Alabama decides that sodomy should be illegal and decides that abortion should be illegal and things like that, he's all for that. So that's not libertarian in the slightest. It's just the fact that he gets away with calling himself that is ridiculous.